Hello and welcome to the Longines HKIR preview show, where this Sunday, right here at Sha Tin, it's the Turf World Championships.
A Melbourne Cup champion, wins it by 2 lengths. Ka Ying Rising, he's put a gap on them. Zach salutes.
Legal and Toshin McCall, Legal wins.
J-Max back in town, so too is Void Bubble.
Janta Manta will go on and win well.
And Tino, Blake Shin, take a bow.
It's Liberty Island. Liberty Island will take out the Grand Tiara from Barsteva.
One of the world's best, back doing what he does best. Romantic warrior, he jogs it.
Very Northern Hemisphere panel on the show this year. We've got Nick Luck, Katherine Ford and also Graham Cunningham. Katherine, we'll come to you first because France, the informed team after Mikhail Barcelona at Happy Valley on Wednesday night.
Yeah, absolutely, and also a winner at the Hong Kong International races last year with the Junko Andre Fabre. He's back. 15 winners so far for France, and let's hope they notch up another 1 or 2 this weekend.
That's why we came to you first of all, because France are flying. Graham Cunningham, they don't run these meetings without you.
It's deep this year. That's the most exciting thing about the international races. And there's a first time for everything, chaps. Sir Alex Ferguson is here with Spirit Dancer, and even a hardened Manchester City fan like me, we're cheering Fergie this weekend.
Yeah, Spirit Dancer, as Graham said. Nick Luck Airlines has touched down in Hong Kong once again. A few venues since we last saw you here in HK.
Yeah, I'll be any hemisphere you like, Mark, to be honest. 2 things for me. One, Ka Ying Rising might be one of the most exciting horses anywhere on the planet. The way David Hayes talks about him suggests that he probably is in the sprint. Second thing, the addition of Australian horses with meaningful chances in 3 of the 4 races. I think that brings a great extra dimension. I'm not just saying that because I'm saying next year.
You're a good man. Straight into the starter list for the Vase, and the Australian is at the top of the book. Without a fight, he's come up with barrier number 1, of course, the Caulfield and Melbourne Cup winner from 2023. Giavaletto in town for Marco Botti. Luxembourg will fare well racing in this race. Dubai Honour makes another trip back to Hong Kong. Iracine, 8-time winner over the mile and a half. Got Predaria for Japan, Continuous for Aidan O'Brien. Ka Ying Generation, who was Derby placed behind Massive Sovereign last year, ensued, and Stellenbosch, the filly for Japan, rounds out the field. A race, Graham, that hasn't been great to Hong Kong over the years, so I guess the focus should be the internationals, and you're a bit keen on Giavaletto.
Yeah, do you know it's 12 years since a British trained horse won a Hong Kong international race? That was Red Cadell for Ed Dunlop on the way back from the Melbourne Cup. Now, he's trained by an Italian and ridden by an Irishman, but Giavaletto represents the Brits for me, and I think he's an underrated horse. His last run wasn't too flash in Ireland. He got upset that day, put his head over the next door stalls. He wasn't in the right frame of mind. But Sheen Murphy gets a really good tune out of him, and his 2 previous wins, Katherine and Nick will remember, Yorkshire Cup runaway win and a dominant Newmarket winning Group 2 company. They give him a really good chance here.
Yeah, that is Giavaletto. Dubai Honour, Katherine, we know him so well here in Hong Kong.
Well, absolutely. He needs no introduction to a global racing audience. Dubai Honour, what a great servant he's been for the Haggis team and connections. They were delighted when he won the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud over the mile and a half back in the summer here in France, over in France. Sorry, we're not in France at all at the moment, but and they were delighted with that. He hasn't really built on that. He's got his regular partner, Tom Marconda, in the saddle. He knows him by heart as well, and it would be great if kind of Tokyo Tom, Aussie Tom could be Sha Tin Tom on Sunday.
He's just everywhere. It's a bit like you, Tom Marquand. You and him go everywhere around the world.
Yeah, he's just a mite handier in the saddle, but only a little bit.
You mentioned the Australians earlier. Without a fight, race 1 of the 4 features, and he's come up with barrier 1.
Yeah, I think he's legit as well.
Yeah.
So I think he'll run really well. I'm not sure he'll win, but he'll get a ground-saving trip. Mark Zara will be super patient on him. I do think they'll go a good pace because there's so many horses that want a bit further, even though there aren't many established front runners. I think Aidan O'Brien will make sure that it cuts the race open and they go good gallop. And I think that'll suit Without a Fight. Patient, chip away, round the inside, save ground. He'll run well.
We'll go straight to his co-trainer now, Sam Friedman.
A lot of work's gone in behind the scenes. Obviously, all the staff at home put in a lot of hours, and yeah, to have the horse here competing in a race on the world stage is very exciting.
We obviously know plenty about him. He's a Caulfield and Melbourne Cup winner. I mean, it takes a pretty decent horse to do that.
Yeah, look, it was a very special achievement, obviously last year, and he's had a fair layoff since then. Had a nice return, sort of blowout at Flemington over the mile and a quarter, which he acquitted himself really well behind Via Sistina. So he'll appreciate the rise in trip, and he's handled the trip over here very well.
I was going to ask you that. How has he settled in? Obviously, he's an older horse. He's a 7-year-old. I suppose he's the type that sort of just takes it all in his stride nowadays.
Yeah, he does. He's got his little quirks, but he's been very straightforward here. So far, everything's gone smoothly. Funnily enough, we feel he might be better this direction, which is hard to believe when he's obviously won a Melbourne Cup and a Caulfield Cup. But he seems to change under his right leg a little bit quicker. He handles himself very well. So no, everything's gone well so far.
So that's Sam Friedman talking without a fight. Nick, Luxembourg. Fairy tale farewell for him if he wins.
Think it might be as well. Think it might be. Yes, he's quite a hard horse to predict, but he's always tried at the very top level. I mean, this is just a notch below where he's normally competing. It's also, I think, exactly the right distance. He runs so well behind Romantic Warrior in the Cup last year. You'd have thought that if he reproduces that here at a track that he obviously loves, over a couple of furlongs further, I think he still is clearly the horse to beat, and I suspect his stable companion Continuous will get out there and cut the race open for him.
How did you separate the O'Brien runners here, Graham?
I think Luxembourg might be the one. Continuous shouldn't be disregarded because he gets fast ground for the first time in a while. Luxembourg didn't get any run, hemmed in a pocket in the Breeders' Cup, so he's a chance. I need to put in a good word for this Japanese filly, Stellenbosch. If ever you thought John Moreira could fly under the radar, it seemed impossible, but he slightly is at the moment. He's got good rides this weekend, and Stellenbosch has looked a pretty good quality Japanese filly.
Let's talk about the French runners. Katherine, the defending champions in the race. This Ericine's a real dude, isn't he?
Oh, he really is. No missing him in the mornings. Trainer Jean-Pierre Gauvin, he's the man in the saddle, and both of them kind of veterans of these days. But Ericine, he went over to Japan last time, and it's been very much a learning process for Jean-Pierre Gauvin and the team. He's a horse that they always said that he wouldn't enjoy travelling, but he went to Japan. He was over in the UK in Champions Day back in October, and they seem really, really pleased with how he's training here. Ridden by Marie Villon, wouldn't it be fantastic if she became the first female jockey to notch a Group 1 winner here in Chartin? And yeah, they're very pleased with him, and it could go well, I think.
Katherine, I was slightly concerned about fast ground for him, but I said exactly the same about Junko for this race last year, and look what happened there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it is a concern. I spoke to Jean-Pierre Gauvin about that this morning, and he said that is one thing that we are aware of. But they've given everything they can. They brought a lead horse over here for him. They're happy with him. Jean-Pierre's walked out on the track. He seems to think that it's slightly better, more give in it than there was in Tokyo last year when the horse was slightly disappointing after a few minor issues. So yeah, we're great. Rags to riches story.
What about Marcus Satz? Are there any comparisons between this horse and Junko from 12 months ago?
Well, they're both trained by the master trainer Andre Fabre, who's won this race 3 times. And Marcus had an interesting profile. You've got to take the Andre Fabre runners seriously, of course. The Godolphin colours, it'll be a final time in the Godolphin colours under contract for Michael Barcelona, as he reminded me the other day. This horse kind of quite lightly raced at the back end of last year. He looked like he had this real profile to become an international traveller, and he's got some decent performances. And well, one thing in Junko, he chased Junko home in the Grand Prix de Chantilly, probably his best piece of form this season, the Group 2 over the 1.5 mile back in June. Disappointing in Germany last time. Under the radar, can't totally rule him out.
He didn't impress some of the work watchers on Wednesday morning. He was a little wayward, shall we say.
All right, well, let's hear from the man that rides him himself, and IJC champion, Michael Barcelona.
He's a lovely horse. I think didn't show his best last time. Looking for a good draw, and then hopefully we give his best on Sunday.
And just going back to that race in Germany, Michael, I mean, the ground obviously was quite testing. Did you sort of put it down to the conditions that day that he didn't show his best?
Well, he always also travelled very well, and in Munich he didn't travel really for me. I know we get bumped at the gate, but I don't think that was a reason for he never get into his race. He definitely didn't show the quality he used to show me against Goliath or against Genko during the spring.
Obviously trained by Andre Fabre, who needs little introduction to Hong Kong and to this race and to racing in general. So I guess you can certainly be confident as a rider that the horse can bounce back, given that it's trained by Monsieur Fabre.
of course, and especially if Mr. Fab taking me after his disappointing run, he's definitely he have something in mind. So we trust in him.
Nick, the Japanese runners, Graham's touched on Stellenbosch. Pradaria, the other horse in the race, they went so slow last year, 3 seconds slower than the 3 previous editions. Will the Japanese horses encourage the pace in this race?
Well, if the pace is pedestrian, as some people fear it might be, then that probably gives Pradaria a little bit of a chance, because he's one of those that's likelier to sit handy than most. He's a bit more tactical than some of these. So you wouldn't rule out a reasonable run. I think Graham's fashioned the case for Stellenbosch already. In addition to what Graham's already said, 3-year-olds have got a pretty handy record in this race the last few years. So she's definitely a player. That form behind a good filly, Savinia, who ran perfectly respectably in the Japan Cup, should see her in the mix. She's just got a bad post.
That has been the first part of the HKIR preview show. We'll get a tip from all of the team at the end of the show and see who they think are the horses to beat. After the break, though, we pay a visit to the rising star himself, Ka Ying Rising. Of course, HKIR not the only focus of this big week in Hong Kong. AJC night at Happy Valley on Wednesday night. As mentioned, taken out by Mikhail Barcelona for France. He set the tempo early with a win in the first leg on Sergeant Pepper and held them all at bay. We had a dead heat for the minors between James McDonald and Holly Doyle. So a win for France midway through the week of IR in Hong Kong. Speaking of IR in Hong Kong, we turn to the sprint now. We have Ka Ying Rising, who's come up with barrier number 11 at the barrier draw on Thursday morning. California Spangles had 2 runs back. Lugal is the Group 1 Sprinter Stakes winner from Japan last time. Invincible Sage Better win 5th in the Jockey Club Sprint behind Ka Ying Rising last time. We've got a new horse coming in the race. Nobles is out for the USA, so Flying Ace comes in to replace him. Starlust, the Breeders' Cup Turf winner. For Japan, it's Toshin Macau and Satono Rev. Recommendation for Australia, Helios Express draws barrier number 1, and down to How Deep Is Your Love. And Beauty Waves has had no luck with the barrier draw of 14. But all the talk this week is not only on Romantic Warrior, it's on the rising star of World Thoroughbred Racing. We ventured down to the David Hayes stables and met the horse himself, along with his trainer. It's David Hayes at Ka Ying Rising.
He just keeps rising, rising and rising. His name, Ka Ying Rising. He won the Premier Bowl. Zach salutes. That's rare. He eased him down. We'll see you in December. Ka Ying Rising special.
Great to have David Hayes on the show today with the star, Ka Ying Rising. How does the 1,200 metre track record holder recover after such a, what looked like an easy win?
It was amazing on Monday morning when you have a horse of his class run. You're always very anxious to see how they pull up. And I had 8 runners on the day. 7 of them left feed, and he was the only one that ate up. So he did it probably as easy as it looked, because they tell you by the way they eat, and he hasn't left a note.
Let's go back to his arrival, the reports before he got here. What were you told about the horse?
Yeah, well, my sons trained him at Lindsay Park, and they really liked him, but they didn't. Well, no one really expects they're selling a potential world champion, but he never lost a trial or a gallop at Lindsay Park, so I had confidence to sell him here to Hong Kong, and he's turned out more than a dream.
The boys are doing a great job down there. Was that putting the pressure on you to find a good one like this?
Well, it was my turn. Brightside could easily be here, but they're in the infancy of their career, and he's been such a star to them, as I think this horse, if he stays sound, will be to me. So every trainer at one stage of their career needs a superstar. I've been lucky to have a few, and I think he measures right up with them.
Other part of the team is Zach Purton. Rare to see him emotional during a race, blow a kiss. What's Zach like to work with you and him as a team?
We've got a very good working relationship. Everyone knows Zach's hypercritical, and he's sort of taken probably 6 wins to fall in love, but he's captivated at the moment. You know, the moment he won on him when he won carrying 135 as a 3-year-old from barrier 15 on a wet track, that's when I sort of realised we had something special, and the time he ran. And probably Zach's got on board of the fan club, probably from the Chief Executives Cup. He said, wow, he's something a bit special.
Ka Ying Rising, 135 pounds, 20 more than he carried to win the Group 3 first up, and jogs it.
Let's talk about the sprint upcoming. You're not scared of the locals on what he's done here. What about the internationals? Because there's some well-credentialed sprinters coming from the world invitees.
Well, you're a fool if you ignore the Japanese. They don't come for practice. They've got too good a record in the races, be it a little bit longer maybe. They're the best sprinters in Japan coming, which I was sad to see. And the last 2 Breeders' Cup winners, which is probably acknowledged the best meeting in the Northern Hemisphere, the 2 winners are coming from there, one being an English horse and one being an American. So it'll be, if he can beat them with a bit of authority, it'll be very exciting.
There's Ka Ying Rising at home, Graham. How do you stop him? Barrier number 11, he just doesn't look vulnerable at all, does he?
That expression on your face. Everyone's the same. Where is the flaw in a young horse like this? He is extremely fast, but he's not fiery. It's controlled aggression. Dejour is the nearest comparison I can find. You need a long memory, look him up. And this horse has come so far in such a short space of time. Multiple quotes, multiple data. One quote from Zach Purton: we are entering scary territory, especially if you're trying to beat him.
Absolutely. And barrier number 11, Katherine, it doesn't really seem to matter, does it, where he draws?
It doesn't seem to matter. I mean, he's won from outside draws before, and he does it all so easily. As you said, Zach Purton just waving at the crowd, immobile as he came to break the record last time. And as you said, I was in the press conference with Zach Purton this morning, and he did say this, it is scary just how good he is, the feeling he gets from this horse, who we just don't seem to have seen the best of him as yet.
You just want to see Zach cut him loose, don't you, Nick, to see what he does to the rest of them?
I enjoyed remembering Dejour. 34 years since he jumped that shadow and it cost him the Breeders' Cup sprint famously at Belmont Park. Only an act of God like that is going to stop Ka Ying Rising winning this race. I spoke to Zach Purton last week and he described him as a really sweet horse, which is so unusual for a sprinter. You know, male sprinter, no aggression at all, real sweet horse. And to be able to do what he's done and break a track record with Zach gearing down, it's amazing. And it's not as though this is a country track where no good horses run. These are the world's best sprinters for the last decade and a half. I just don't see how you get him beaten.
That's the thing too, he goes forward, he relaxes, and then goes again. He's just foolproof.
It was a 17-year-old Sacred Kingdom track record. He hit the line in 67.43. No horse has ever come near 67 seconds here. Could it happen this weekend, Mark, under these conditions?
It's going to be a little cooler on Sunday, but we don't know where he's at. How much faster can he go? So, sky's the limit.
Do you know one tiny red flag, and I shouldn't really hold this against Ka Ying Rising. 5 or 6 years ago, people remember a horse called Athero, who won the Jockey Club Sprint, the race that Ka Ying Rising was like an absolute champion. And I thought he was the next big thing on the global sprinting stage. 3 months later, he was done. He bled a couple of times and it was bye-bye. Horses are delicate creatures, but this one looks the most exciting sprinter in the world at the moment.
I think we all agree we're running for second at best here of the others. California Spangle, he's been such a great horse over all sorts of distances. Katherine went to Dubai last year and was victorious. Yeah,
I absolutely love this horse, and I was delighted to see him over the sprint distance in Dubai, and he won the Alquoz Sprint, trained by the great Tony Cruz, who knows what it takes to have a good sprinter, and in his own right, absolutely fantastic horse. But can he reverse the form with the Ka Ying Rising? I don't think he can.
He's come up nicely with barrier number 2. Others in the race, Nick, for Hong Kong, China, Helios Express. He was very good first up, but again, he's going to give Ka Ying Rising a start at the top of the straight.
Yeah, and the other issue is, there'll be 1 or 2 who will try and get after Ka Ying Rising and try and go with him. They'll probably pay, and that probably makes California Spangled the obvious one to pick up pieces, because we know that he's a strong stayer at this distance. He's been brilliantly reinvented.
What about Stardust coming across from America?
I fear we've seen this movie a few times before, which is you can make a theoretical case for a place on paper, and it's a perfectly cogent case. Super win in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. He's very tough, very tenacious. Again, the sort of horse who'll be finishing off the race. as Rafe Beckett's pointed out, he's been right-handed before, he's been 1,200 metres before, those things aren't an issue, he won't mind the ground, all of this, but he's a European-trained sprinter. So.
And Rafe was disappointed with the 10 draw.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that a horse can go and win a Group 1 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint at 34-1 in the prime of his life, and it'll be a bigger prize. Because Hong Kong punters despise European sprinters, and there's a lot of data to back it up. So good luck to them. It's a sporting challenge, but it's a big challenge as well.
They don't despise Japanese sprinters. Denon smash winning in 2020. Lugal comes here with Group 1 winning form, Graham.
Yeah, he looks a big unit, and he blossomed in a fast run race on top of the ground, going right-handed, and it was a neck for the Sprinter Stake. So either those Japanese sprinters are very good or of a certain level, and I think of a certain level might sum it up. Won't stop him running well, but he needs to up his game again to beat Ka Ying Rising.
And that is the second of the Group 1s as we head to a break here on the Longines HKIR preview show. The sprint is all about Ka Ying Rising.
Golden 60 called upon now. The great horse to the outside. Shantin is electric, but it's Golden 60 for Hong Kong. Golden 60! Voyage Bubble the leader. Voyage Bubble in front.
Tall and Tino from last to first has bolted in. Soul Rush has got the front and will win the mile championship.
Well, that sets the scene for Hong Kong, China versus the world in this year's mile, and the world might have a chance because there is no Golden 60 in this starters list for the 2024 edition. Soul Rush is in the list though, he's representing Japan at the top. Voyage Bubble, 2 excellent ones back. And Tino gives Tony Gollan his first Hong Kong runner. The Beauties, Eternal and Joy, numbers 4 and 5. Galaxy Patch Drew, barrier number 14. We've got Red Lion, Ching Ching Glory, Taj Dragon, Japanese 3-year-old Jantar Manta. For France, it's Lazat and Ramadan. For James Ferguson and Ryan Moore down at the bottom of the book. Docklands has been here as long as any of the international campaigners. Nick Child caught up with his trainer, Harry Eustace.
Harry Eustace, great to see you. Great to catch up here in Hong Kong, and we're at the barrier draw. Docklands has drawn gate number 2. You must be pleased where he is.
Yeah, delighted. The way the draw went, I didn't have to do much apart from watch the sort of draws tick by, and then I thought I'd kept track of them all, and when we were left with 2, it's sort of as good as you could ask for, really.
As far as the horse in himself, Harry, obviously he is a Royal Ascot winner for you. I know he hasn't won a race since then, but he's run some very good races in much deeper company.
Yeah, he's just been tilting at the top table and running some great races, especially at Ascot, second in the Queen Anne. He's travelled over from Oz really well, and he's very much up to this level. You just need a bit of luck, particularly in Hong Kong.
A mile around here on this course, is that more than likely to suit him, do you think, given what we know?
I think so. We're back to the mile for the first time since the Queen Anne. That's definitely his best form. He's travelled around a bend, no problem, no real qualms about that. And particularly out of the chute, it's only one turn, so he's going to have the blinkers on for the race. Just thought coming back in trip, we're getting towards the end of a long year. He seems very well, but we just thought we'd give Mark every chance if we had a good draw to hold us at a decent position.
There's Harry Eustace, Nick, on Docklands. He's coming back in distance from his racing in Australia's.
Yeah, which I think is absolutely the right thing to do. He clearly doesn't stay 10 furlongs. It was worth the try. Might not have been worth a second try, but I could see what he was trying to do. And this is a horse that's going to race on next year. Back to a mile, headgear on, interestingly. The blinkers go on. Might just help him sit a little handier to the pace. I'd like to just see him bide his time, Mark Zara. Bide his time. He's got one burst, which probably lasts a furlong and a half, and he needs to deploy it. Just in timely fashion. I don't think he's completely out of this if his exploits down under haven't taken it out of him.
Has barrier 2 given him the best opportunity to figure in the finish?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a great draw for him. Just patient, see what you can pick up. But the headgear I think is good, dropping back in trip's good.
Ramadan Graham, he better get used to these surroundings. It's his new home.
He jumped out of the barriers with Docklands this morning. Now they did 4 furlongs at pretty handy speed, but he was slow out of the gate. Docklands is as bright as a button. He loves his work. He was sharp from the gate. Ramadan was sluggish and gradually warmed up. Interesting, we'll come to Katherine on this in a minute. The owner, what's his name, Nick?
Nurlan Bizikov.
Yeah, he has a handful of crack horses this year. Sharon, he owned Ramadan, he owns Lazat. He sold Ramadan for 1.5 million euros after he won a Group 2 on Arc Weekend. I suspect that he might have kept hold of the right one, Katherine, Lazat?
Yeah, I think Lazat are potentially very much a top level horse. Ramadan, a good horse in his own right. He won a classic trial. Christopher Head, his former trainer, thought a lot of him. But as you say, Nurlan Bizikov has passed him on, and we'll see how he goes. He does have something to find on form with the best of these, but Lazat, a really exciting horse. He's a gelding. He's a horse we'll be seeing plenty more of over the next months and years. Also with the trainer, Jérôme Renier, he's a man we'll be hearing a lot about. He's had a great year with this horse, with Factor Cheval, who won in Dubai, the Dubai Turf. Very, very astute young trainer, and he's had this plan in his mind for several months. He won the Group 1 Maurice de Guest over the 1,300 metres at Deauville. Then he went over to Australia for the Golden Eagle. And I was speaking to Jérôme this morning. He said that he thought that maybe the long break between the two, the fact he had to have 2 weeks in Newmarket in quarantine where he couldn't work him maybe in the best of conditions. Then he was down at Canterbury. He had to go on the grass, where he's a horse, he never works on the grass at home. So there were just various things that conspired against him. Just didn't lose out by much in the Golden Eagle, but second in that very valuable race. But he's delighted with him since he's been here in Hong Kong. He's acclimatised well, and he's got a little doubt about the mile for him. He was saying, you know, whether or not he'll aim for the mile next year or whether this will answer his question and he'll drop down to sprinting, but a really high-class horse.
One man who'll be watching Ramadan particularly closely is bang-in form Hong Kong trainer Mark Newnham, because Ramadan goes to Mark Newnham with the Derby dream in mind after this race.
He does indeed. The Derby coming up in January in Hong Kong. The Japanese runners, Graham, we'll start with Jantar Mantar, because every person you talk to that knows the form is tipping this is the best bet of the day outside of Ka Ying Rising.
Nick and Katherine will back me up on this. Every big global festival you go to, there is a buzz horse. Yeah. This is a buzz horse with a capital B.
They normally don't
He's
win.
got the look as well.
I know. They
normally don't win.
Yeah, festooned in orange headgear and bandages. He's a 3-year-old. He hasn't raced since May. Golden 60 overcame that sort of layoff. We can't say that Jantar Mantar stacks up like that, but he's looked exciting, and I think he's likely to run well. But if you ask me for the solid one, it's the other Japanese horse, Soul Rush, who was 4th in this race last year. I'm convinced that he comes back a better horse because he demolished the best of Japan's 1,600-metre horses in the Mile Championship last time.
What he said, basically.
Yeah.
I think it's such a very open race. You could fashion a case for 6 or 7 horses quite comfortably from all different parts of the world, but it's almost inconceivable that Soul Rush won't run well. Yeah. Everything, trip, ground, the draw, everything's setting up nicely for
But we could be missing the most solid horse in the race.
In the whole race, yeah.
This time last year, you tipped Voyage Bubble to me behind Golden 60, and I thought, what's he on about? He ran a screamer at a big price, and he has not gone backwards in any way, Voyage Bubble. He shrugged off the Group 1 penalty in the Jockey Club Mile last time, and he is, as you know, Mike, he does everything super professionally, doesn't he? He maximises every ounce of his talent.
He'd have gone quite close in Dubai if he'd had any kind of run, I think. Yeah, he just got super unlucky.
So he's one of 2 really genuine chances for Hong Kong China, Nick. The other one's Galaxy Patch. Barrier 14, nothing went right for him last time.
It's going to be, I mean, I know Barrier 14 has been successful in this race before, but that was Golden 60 last year, and there was only one Golden 60. Yeah. That's surely going to be a struggle in a race as deep as this.
There is one thing to mention about him, as you know, Mark, he can run very fast. Yeah. He can reel off 22 section from halfway and then again. So if he gets a really strong pace to run at, he could run well, but it's there in black and white. He received £5 from Voyage Bubble last time, and he couldn't beat him.
Well, that's most of the world. We need to head to the Southern Hemisphere now. Tony Gollan is in town with his charge and Tino.
Tony Gollan. Great to see you here, Tony, and you've brought over a very decent horse as well, Antino. How happy are you?
Yeah, I'm very happy. Yeah, thanks for having me for starters. It's been a great week. The horse has settled in really well. You just see him stretch his legs in his last piece of work, and he's in very good shape. I feel he's in as good a shape as we saw him at Flemington in the Champions Mile.
Just as an overall sort of summation of his form, I mean, some of that form is very good, obviously. I mean, it looks an open mile this year, doesn't it? So I imagine you'd be quietly fancying your chances, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know the international form that well, but it's certainly more open with Golden 60 retired, that's for sure and certain. So it makes it a bit better for all of us travellers. The local is not as dominant as what he has been for the last 3 years. So the form in Australia has been great, weight for age form all spring. He's been up to the mark well. My main goal was to get him here in as good a shape as what I had at Flemington, and I do feel we got him there.
This has been a bit of a dream for you, hasn't it? I read in an article that you've always wanted to bring a horse, and to have a horse of this guy's calibre and to have the opportunity must be quite special.
Yeah, it has been actually. I never actually thought if I would get the honour to have a horse here, which is honour to get invited to come to this race day. It's a fantastic race meeting with the 4 big Group 1s. This horse here, we've been thinking about this for about a year. As we got deeper into the spring, it started to become a bit of a reality. I wanted to really make sure that his Group 1 weight for age form in Australia was up to the mark, and it was all spring. So we feel like we're a worthy contender.
Talking of being up to the mark, you've got a jockey who's most definitely up to the mark. Obviously has some previous at this meeting, Blake Shin. Obviously we know him very well, and I imagine good to have him on board as well.
Absolutely. He knows the place well, obviously, but more importantly, he knows the horse well. I think Antino's a quirky horse, as you see. This morning he likes to have a good look around at things, and Blake knows what he can and can't do. So it's really important for us to have a rider on of his calibre, but more importantly, knows him so well.
And just sort of as the experience, I mean, your horse is now settled in. I mean, how has he settled in? All been okay?
Yeah, terrific. I mean, the weather is beautiful this time of the year. The climate's so kind to the horses. It's one of the major attractions of coming here in December. He's settled in really well. He's enjoyed his time here at Sha Tin. Your dirt track's very similar to what we have at home at Eagle Farm. So most things have been really good, very similar. Can't be happier.
So that's the preview of the mile on Sunday here at Sha Tin. We're going to head to a break right now. On the other side of this, it's all about Romantic Warrior. We're back, and we might have saved the very best for last, because Romantic Warrior appears looking to win his 3rd Longines Hong Kong Cup, and he's on 1, and he's horse number 1. Number 2, Spirit Dancers, a Group 2 winner in Bahrain last time. Tastira comes across from Japan. Caliph is here for France. He's a 3-time winner over the 2,000 metres. Nimble Nimbus, a good honest toiler from Hong Kong. We've got the Foxes for Andrew Balding. Liberty Island makes her 2nd appearance since March. Content for Aidan O'Brien. And the stablemate Wingspan down the bottom as well rounds out the field for the Longines Hong Kong Cup. It's feature interview time though. The Longines world's best jockey is James McDonald, and Nick had an in-depth chat to the pilots of the great horse Romantic Warrior.
Well, James McDonald, many thanks for chatting to us. It's very much the calm before the storm now, isn't it? Really a busy period coming up. It started well for you during this stint, but the big day, the international meeting coming up on December 8th. A little bit nervous at this stage, maybe?
Oh, not yet. Obviously, probably once the final field comes out and you're rattling through it, that's when the butterflies start. But yeah, it's going to be such a huge thrill, obviously, to be a part of this international series, and yeah, it's a great day to be a part of, and to have a live chance is even better with Romantic Warrior.
Let's focus, James, on that sort of that record, if you will. Now he's going for a 3rd Hong Kong Cup. It's never been achieved before. California Memory won it twice. Didn't manage to run in it the next year, but did run down the field the following year. But the record, I mean, is that something that sort of you think about at all?
Not really, no. I just enjoy coming back to ride him, to be fair. He just gives you so much confidence as a rider. Yeah, you just look forward to the day. He's very self-explanatory. He pops away. He can do things that other horses can't, that I've never experienced before. And yeah, obviously he's got an immense challenge ahead of him, especially trying to go for a 3rd Hong Kong Cup, which is just going to be a huge task, especially with the field that's assembling this year. It's going to be a cracking race. And but I feel he's just in in sensational form. I don't think he can be going any better than he has been over the last few years. So that indicates that he's in this race right up to his ears, and if he runs to his best, he's hard to beat wherever he runs.
James, you got on him as a late 4-year-old. So obviously you've played a huge part in his career, as to of other jockeys, for sure. How has he developed in any way? I mean, he's sort of rising 7 now, obviously being from the hemisphere that he is. I mean, has he changed at all?
Well, he hasn't. From my perspective, no, he hasn't really changed too much, except he just seems to be holding a extremely high level every time I hop on him. But he was pretty much a fully developed horse when I had anything to do with him. So if anything, he's probably got a bit faster since I've ridden him. His will to win, his tenacity, his adaptability is just incredible, and that's what makes him so good. But yeah, he's just an absolutely gentleman to ride, and to answer your question, probably not. He just seems to go better and faster.
Thoroughly exciting time for you and everybody, and just obviously to quote you on when we last spoke after winning the trial, I mean, the prize fighter, the heavyweight champion of the world, he really is, isn't he now?
He is, and I reckon that's indicated by the field that's assembled for the Hong Kong Cup. They've come here to take him on. He went to Japan and beat them in their own backyard, and it just feels like they've got unfinished business, and they've brought probably one of their better horses to the Hong Kong Cup in Liberty Island and a Derby winner. So it feels like they've come to take him on, and there's no doubt he'll be up for the challenge.
That's James McDonald there, Katherine, with Nick Childs. There's an unsung hero on this horse, Denny Shum. The job that this man has done with this horse is unbelievable.
Absolutely, and what an ambitious campaign he's given him. It was great to see him go and win over the mile, the Yasuda Kinnan over in Japan. He's a 10-furlong specialist here in Hong Kong. He's been over to Australia, and he's just been managed to the minute, and really, really impressive from the trainer as well as from the horse, of course.
Absolutely. What about barrier number 1, Graham? He was fast out last time. They can ride to beat him in this, though.
Yeah, but he's got mile speed, and he's super professional. I'd like to ask Nick a question on this because, as you know, Katherine, in media terms, at these big international festivals, Nick puts in the hard yards.
What's coming now?
Nick puts in the hard yards, so we don't have to. But seriously, the serious question, Cox Plate, Yasuda Kinnan, multiple Group 1s in Hong Kong. Is there a horse on the planet who has done more internationally than this horse in the past 13, 14 months?
No, I don't think there is. And the point you raise about the Yasuda Kinnan is an interesting one, because I think it answers the question, is he just a faster horse than his main rival here? And I think the answer is yes. And he showed such bright gate speed here last time that I think that stall 1 is ideal. He can make it if he has to. I don't think he will have to, because I think one of the Aidan O'Briens will crack on. Wingspan probably.
You spoke to James McDonald about this horse on the stage at the IJC press conference. I was really, really surprised that a grizzled operator like him, he was getting instantly emotional, wasn't he?
It's never too far from the surface with James, is it? But this horse really got inside his soul.
This is a fellow who rides Via Sistina, the highest rated turf horse on the planet at the moment.
And when he won here the FWD for the 3rd time, everything was stacked against Romantic Warrior, not least the ground that had got really loose with that monsoon during the course of the week, and a really good Japanese horse in Prognosis firing at him. And he just dug back and dug back and dug in. This weekend, everything is set up perfectly for him. There isn't really an issue, and I don't really think this is the deepest edition of this race either that he's had to.
If Liberty Island comes back to her very best, then on the numbers she can give him a race. Now, Mark, she disappointed after a long break last time, but you're inclined to forgive that defeat, aren't you?
Absolutely. Here's a montage exactly why too, Graham.
Here comes Liberty Island. She's flying home late, and she gets up and scores. He says, go girl, and Liberty Island starts to stretch away. It's a case of what's going to run 2nd or 3rd. Liberty Island is starting to race away. The Triple Tiara is well and truly alive. She just goes whoosh. Liberty Island will take out the Grand Tiara.
So that's Liberty Island, Nick. We know her very well from around the world. What about Testera? Been reading the stable notes. He's been a bit nervy since he's been here.
Might want a little bit further to be seen at his best, but you quite often say that about the Japanese horses because they're just granted more opportunities to race at a sterner test, and they're a little bit more versatile distance-wise. Lots of form with Do Juice, which people will be looking at because Do Juice looks so good when winning the Japan Cup. I think we're dealing with a different Do Juice now to the one that we were dealing with before. Yep. But he's in the mix with some of the better, older handicapping brigade in Japan.
France represented here by Caliph Catherine?
Yeah, absolutely. An absolute globetrotter, if ever there was one. Caliph won a Group 1 in Germany for the trainer Jan and Carlos Lerner. They had a great season this year in France, winning the French Derby. Jan Lerner this morning was saying that he's really happy with the horse who finished third in Bahrain last time, chased home a Spirit Dancer, who will be reopposing. A likeable horse. They were delighted with the draw number 8. Happy with him, but he'll have to produce a career best to try and take on Romantic Warrior.
Spirit Dancer. Is this the only time you would ever cheer for anything to do with Manchester United?
I think it will be. It'll be a first time for everything. But he's now rated 120. And at a pretty advanced stage, he put up his very best performance. I think you were in Bahrain. He won that race for the second year running, and he was dynamic.
And it's extraordinary. Deja vu all over again. He did it from the same gate, wide gate, with a withering turn of foot.
But in a vastly faster time.
Much faster time.
Fergie time.
Fergie time. Great ride from a Chinois. We talk about unsung heroes. Nobody's talked about him with this. I mean, he's been brilliant on this horse. And, again, he's wide. He'll be delivered late. I don't think a wide gate's a problem for him here because he's going to be delivered late. He'll be finishing. I could see him in the 3, but I can't see him beating Romantic Warrior.
What about the Foxes?
He's inconsistent. He comes here in form off the back of a confidence-boosting win. Last time he travelled a long way for a race, he completely blew out in Saudi Arabia. I would have my worries.
Okay.
Aidan, under the radar here with Content and Wingspan, 2 pretty good fillies.
Yeah, they are good. And Content was good in the Yorkshire Oaks. And the other point about her run in the Yorkshire Oaks is that you thought for all the world would bring her back, cut her back to 10. Because she's too keen. She's too keen in top company, I think, to be winning against colts and geldings over 12. So I think this sort of distance, 2,000 metres, suits her absolutely ideally. And Wingspan will go forward, because she probably does want a bit further. She probably does want a mile and a half, 2,400 metres.
Selection time. Are we going brave? We'll start with yours for the first 4 races, isn't it?
Okay, do you want me to go all 4 races now?
Yeah, let's just go all 4.
Okay, so the Vase, I was tempted by Without a Fight, but in the end I've gone with Luxembourg. But I'm boring in the sprint, but I don't think it's going to be a boring performance. Watch the clock, Ka Ying Rising. The mile I've gone for Soul Rush, good solid straight back sort of selection. And I think Romantic Warrior just wins again.
Have you got France to go back-to-back in the Vase, Catherine?
I have. I'm going to go with Iracine, maybe with an each-way proviso if the odds are high enough. But I think he's going to go well at a decent price. So Iracine making history with Marie Vallon in the Vase. In the sprint, boring as well. Ka Ying Rising, but not boring. Then we have the mile. I'm with France as well in that one. Lazat, lucky number 7, number 7 saddle cloth, and lucky number 7 draw. I wasn't so loyal last year. I think I maybe, cast aside Junko, so I'm regretting that. But I think they've got some good chances. Lazat, I like him, and then boring again. Romantic Warrior looks difficult to oppose in the cup.
You only need 2 flags to carry on Sunday. Graham?
Vase, Giavolotto, I like him. I think he might be value when in place. Sprint, Ka Ying Rising, with the Quinella Elios Express to come through charging late. Mile, Soul Rush with a side of, is it Jantar Mantar? It is, isn't it?
Yep.
The Buzz Horse. And Romantic Warrior in the cup with perhaps Tastiera to make it interesting for the queue.
Great to see you, Graham. Thanks for your company on the coverage.
Always a pleasure.
You too, Catherine.
Great to be here.
And Mr. Racecourse around the world.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be on Graham's show.
Thank you.
As it always is, the Graham Cunningham Show. That has been the preview for the HKIR. Before we go, quick look at the diary. The first race here at 12:25 on Sunday. You can view it live on the website from 11:55 and all the socials and everything you need. The best place to visit is hkjc.com. That has been the Longines HKIR preview show. Bring on Sunday, Ka Ying Rising, Romantic Warrior. They headline it for Hong Kong, China as they prepare to take on the world.